Well, hello there, fellow creative ghouls and goblins. In this video, I am inspired to make small versions of this adorable little pumpkin guy picked up at Home Goods a couple of years ago. They're pretty easy to make, and most of the stuff I already had that I collected at Dollar Tree and Big Lots. Alright, let's do this. Here I'm going to be using your traditional little jack-o'-lanterns that you can pretty much find anywhere. Big Lots, Walmart, Dollar Tree. A string of skeletons we all know and love from the Dollar Tree. A bundle of skull heads that you can also get from the Dollar Tree, our handy dandy glue gun, wire and some cutting devices along with some rope for the base. Use twine or whatever you have that's thin enough, lacy ribbon and some tulle for the ruffles, and a lighter so we can shape our arms and legs. Let us begin by taking off these little handlebars. You can keep them on depending on how you want your pumpkin to look, but in this case I'm not going to use them. Later in the video, I'll show you how I use my dehydrated oranges to make pumpkin people out of those too. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down in the description box. I'm just poking out the remains with the little pin here, so we're going to use these holes for the arms here in a minute. Now it's time to dismember our little skeleton fellas. I'm using an X-Acto knife to harvest the arms and legs, while also trying not to harvest my own fingers. Feel free to use scissors to cut these off. I have my X-Acto knife, so I'm just kind of running it back and forth where the arm begins and just working it till it snaps off. If you need to, you can twist it around, and that kind of helps as well. Trust me, he doesn't mind. I promise. I think. The legs are really easy. They just pop right out. Alright, that wasn't too brutal. Now we got our arms and legs. Next, if the arms don't fit in the holes, we can take the tip of our glue gun and apply pressure to it without triggering it. That will soften the plastic to make it more malleable. This is an easy way to puncture holes through thick plastic, by the way. On a side note, if you ever feel the need to cut through plastic, applying heat to it with the heat gun or hot blow dryer, then cutting through with an X-Acto knife works like magic. I want the arms to fall a bit to the side instead of a flying hug kind of position. You could easily articulate the arms and legs to pose them however you'd like by applying heat to it with a lighter or match. Once you've flashed it with the heat for a couple of seconds, just hold it in whatever position you want it to be and let it cool off for a bit before attaching it. Alright, I just work it in there a little bit. Alright, looking pretty good, I think. Yeah, that looks fine. And now I'm just going to blast it with some glue to secure it. Do the same thing to the other side. I think it goes without saying, if your plastic smells a little bit while you're burning it, you might want to open up a window. We're not trying to inhale any kind of fumes here. Alright, looking good. Well, a little flappy. Yeah, I'm going to add glue. Excellent. Now we repeat the same step to the bottom. Okie dokie. Go ahead and just apply some pressure there, no triggering, just wanting to poke a hole with the heat. Work that skeleton leg through. If you decide you want him in a standing position, make sure to secure the leg holes with plenty of glue on the inside. Drizzle the glue from the top if the tip of the gun doesn't reach the inside of the bottom. That should make it sturdy enough to glue the feet to a base of your choosing. I hope that explanation made some sense because I unfortunately skipped that part. After I apply the glue, I just kind of wind the arms over a little bit to work that in there and let it set. I'm applying the same glue gun method to punch holes on the top and the bottom of the skull. This plastic is a bit thicker than the pumpkin, so I just hold the tip of the glue gun a little longer than before. The X-Acto knife helps shape the holes so we can pull the twine through. The twine will be the base that holds everything together. Let's do the same thing to the top of the skull. FYI, this project is not limited to just little skull heads. You can replace that with a little cat head, maybe a little doll head, an eyeball. That looks about right. We're almost there. Look at that. It's kind of coming together, but it does need its ruffle. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. First, we got to thread the twine through the bottom, right here. I'm going to use the twine that came with the skeletons, and that's going to measure about 25 inches. And then I'm going to fold that in half, take those 2 ends, pull it through our makeshift wire needle, twist the end of the wire so that way it's easily manageable when you're pulling it through all the holes we just made. My apologies for using a wire that is the exact same color as the background. Purple on purple. It's all I had. And this is what this is all about, right? Using what you got. Okay, be careful not to pull all of it through. You want to leave just a little bit of the twine at the end so that way we have something to glue down to secure it. Once you apply the glue to the end, you can put a little piece of felt to cover it up, but that's a matter of preference. I'm going to just smear the glue on it, kind of flatten it out. I'm not going to cover it up because, well, you're not really going to see it. And same step, but through the skull, which can be a little tricky. So that's why you want the wire to be as straight as possible with a tapered end. This little wire device is similar to like a topsy tail. Anyone remember topsy tail? I'm sure that's still a thing. Maybe it's rebranded. I don't know. Anyway, now you can go ahead and pull the twine all the way through the skull. I know this part can be a little tedious, but nonetheless, it is pretty worth it in the end. Before you know it, you'll have a whole colony of little skeleton pumpkin people running around. I mean, imagine that. Hooray, success, but we have no neck. We will fix that now with my favorite part, which is the ruffle. Here we're going to use that insufferable purple wire, measuring at about 16 inches. Along with our lacy ribbon, measuring 23-24 inches. Now I thread the wire over and under, kind of like a needle, all the way through at lightning speed. Super pro tip, secure the end so that way all your hard work doesn't just fall off the other end. And just kind of scrunch it all the way through because that's what we're making is pretty much a little scrunchy. Keep pulling it through and meet it at the other end. Voila, a ruff. And you only need one. Because as they say, 2 ruffs don't make a right. That is not true. We're going to do 2 ruffs because we're not done yet. I'm using an orange tulle fabric that measures about 25 inches long and a little over half an inch wide. And I'm going to use a needle and thread for this one. And just the same old under and over method. Again, at super rapid speed. I'm happy to report that I only poked myself once. Alright, and we're at the end. Please note you do not have to use tulle. You can use whatever little fabric you got lying around as well. Go ahead and loop it so you have a little scrunchie again. I'm attaching it to the top of the skull around the twine just as we did with the ruffle on the neck part. I'm going to loop the thread around 3 times just to give it a nice little secure knot. And then I'll tie it once more before I clip it. At this point, you can fluff and even out the ruffle. But wait, one last piece, and that is a green pom-pom. You don't have to sew this, just put it in the center and tie the twine really tight above it. I'm going to dab a little bit of glue just to keep that down. If you don't have any pom-poms, you can use maybe like a bead. The options are limitless. And you know what? Go ahead and give it another courtesy knot. We are done with our dandy pumpkin person. There are different variations of this that you can experiment with. I'll show you at the end of the video. If you've seen my previous video with my dehydrated oranges, you can use one of those oranges instead of this plastic pumpkin. I know I mentioned in the video that you have to poke the holes before you dehydrate them, otherwise they'll break. I found out that if you gently start to screw in the X-Acto knife clockwise and counterclockwise, you can adjust the hole to however you want. This bottom hole is a little too big, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little wooden piece of popsicle stick so I can secure the rope base. And just repeat the same steps we did with the plastic pumpkin. Another bonus tip I didn't think of up until now is if you want a more refined joint for the arms, go ahead and grab a pair of pliers and do the same flame technique and kind of just squeeze it really tight and hold it till it cools off, and you get a little bit more of a refined joint situation. And there we have it. Same steps, different pumpkin. Here are some examples of what I ended up doing with the pumpkin people. I can see these maybe on a wreath, possibly a centerpiece for your table. The list goes on. If you liked this video and found it amusing, subscribe for more handmade tutorials and such. Or don't, that works out too. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye!